If you are here for another fear-driven video telling you that YouTube is over, this isn't it. I'm not going to tell you to quit YouTube. I'm not going to tell you to move somewhere else. And I'm definitely not going to tell you that I discovered the secret to growing a YouTube channel, because I haven't. I'm actually speaking to you from the other side of that story. I'm not sitting here with 5,100 subscribers telling you what I did when I was small. I'm not sitting here with 20,000 subscribers or even 5,000. I'm speaking to you from a small channel where I have posted 108 videos, and many of them were barely watched. Some of them received almost no views at all. I don't even have a talking parent or another exceptionally cute animal to help me to gain an audience. So we are doing this the difficult way. But with YouTube recently announcing that the watch hour requirement for new creators entering full monetization will eventually double from 4,000 to 8,000, I have been thinking. Not so much about YouTube. I have been thinking about us, the people who are still on this side of the door. And I have been asking myself a question. Why did I come here in the first place? Because I think somewhere along the way I forgot. When I started this channel, it was a passion project. I had gone through the lengthy and very difficult period in my life. And during that time I wrote. I made notes, lots of them. Things I was learning, things I was understanding only after going through them. And eventually I thought maybe I could turn some of those notes into videos. Not because I thought I had all the answers. I didn't. I just knew what it felt like to be going through something and desperately wanting to hear another human being say, I understand. I have been here too. You are not the only one experiencing this. So I started making this little video reflection, and my hope was very simple. Maybe somebody would come across one at the exact moment that they need it. Maybe they would recognize themselves in it. Maybe by the end they would feel just a little lighter. The feeling that I wanted to create. So they should feel like they sat down and talked with somebody. That was really it. That was why I started. Then something interesting happened. I began posting some of the same shorts on TikTok and YouTube. Same message, same person, same voice, same video. And the response could be completely different. Something that barely moved on YouTube could receive a very warm response on TikTok. People commented, people shared their own experiences. And yes, TikTok may have shown that video to more people. I'm not trying to make a scientific comparison between the two different platforms. But for me, it became a human checkpoint. Because when something you have made receives almost no response, over and over again, eventually you start wondering, is it the platform or is it me? Is what I'm making simply not connecting with anybody? TikTok answered a little bit of that for me. It showed me that sometimes the message was connecting. Somebody did need it. They just weren't necessarily finding it here. And that mattered to me. Not because I needed applause, but because there was another human being on the other side. And that was the reason I started making these videos. But then something else happened. I started learning YouTube, CTR, retention, thumbnails, titles, hooks, watch time, when people click, when they leave, why they leave, what the algorithm might want, what the algorithm apparently doesn't want. And slowly, without really noticing it, I started measuring my work differently. Instead of asking, did I say what I wanted to say? I started asking, will people click this? Instead of asking, could this help somebody? I was looking at whether YouTube has shown it to anybody. And when the videos weren't moving, I worked harder. I changed things. I tried different approaches. I made more videos. And strangely, the harder I worked, the less I seemed to get back. Eventually, I stopped posting here for a while because I had to think. There was another problem too. I could see what was working around me. Fear works, outrage works, conflict works. Someone telling you that everything is about to collapse can work very well. Sometimes someone practically shouting at their own audience seems to make people want to subscribe to them even more. And apparently I don't understand that relationship. Maybe that's another video, but I knew I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to manufacture fear so somebody would click. I didn't want to make you anxious and then promise that I had the answer. I didn't want to create from fear. I wanted to create from love. And once I started changing that, the whole project started feeling different. Sometimes I watch videos that were uploaded to YouTube 10 or 15 years ago. And technically, some of them are terrible. The camera isn't practically good. The lighting is questionable. The editing is basic. The thumbnail sometimes looks like somebody accidentally selected a random frame from the video. And yet, there is something I really like about many of them. They feel genuine. Someone knew something, or loved something, or wanted to talk about something. So they turn on a camera and share it. That is not to romanticize old YouTube. People build businesses here then too. And what YouTube became has given us incredible things. There are people teaching skills here that once would have required paying for a course. There are creators producing documentaries from their bedrooms. There are people who build livelihoods here. And especially after 2020, when so many people lost jobs and had their lives turned upside down, online creation became something more than a hobby for many people. It became hope. Maybe if I work hard enough, I can build something of my own. Maybe I can eventually provide for myself doing this. And that's why I think these new requirements hurt some small creators more than YouTube may realize. It's not simply another 4,000 watch hours. For some already struggling to reach 4,000, 8,000 can feel almost unreachable. But YouTube is allowed to do that. It's their platform, their business, their rules. I can be disappointed by those rules. I can disagree with them. But I can't build my life around the assumption that YouTube will arrange its business around what I need. So when I heard about the new requirement, I eventually realized that there was another question I needed to ask. Not why did YouTube do this, but what am I going to do with that information? Because I have already made 108 videos. Do I want to make another 108 if nobody watches them? That's not a rhetorical question. Maybe the answer is no. There are other things I could do with those hours. Other projects, other work, other parts of life. Time matters. Energy matters. And I don't believe anyone should keep putting themselves into something simply because somebody on the internet told them that successful people never quit. Sometimes stopping is the right decision. But there is another possible answer too. Maybe I still want to create, just differently. Maybe the mistake was turning a passion project into a race before it had ever become a business. And that brings me back to the beginning. Why did I start? I started because I had something I wanted to leave here, something another person might find. That was enough before I started counting everything. And perhaps I need to remember that. Maybe I make fewer videos. Maybe I don't exhaust myself trying to satisfy an algorithm I don't control. Maybe I put something here because I believe it deserves to exist. And then I go live my life. Plant a seed, leave it there. Plant another somewhere else and see what grows. I don't know what the right answer is for you. And I'm not going to tell you to keep going. Maybe YouTube was supposed to become a business for you. And if the amount of unpaid work required no longer makes financial sense, perhaps your time really would be better invested somewhere else. That's a reasonable decision. But maybe you came here for another reason. Maybe before the subscribers, before the watch hours, before CTR and retention and thumbnails. There was something you wanted to make, something you wanted to teach, something you wanted to say, something you wanted to leave behind. So perhaps before deciding whether YouTube's new goalpost is worth chasing, there is a simpler question to answer. Why did you enter this field in the first place? What was your driving point? I've shared mine. And now with monetization threshold I may never reach, I have to decide whether I still want to create here. You may have to decide too. Maybe this is the end of the project. Maybe it becomes a business somewhere else. Or maybe, strangely enough, this is where it becomes a passion project again. I don't know. But I think it's worth remembering what existed before all the numbers. So I leave you with the same question I'm asking myself. If nobody promised you that this would ever become a business, would you still make it? And if the answer is yes, why?